Hey, peace out there to everybody tuning in. It's the first of the first today, 2025, and the sun is shining. Without further ado, let's give all praises to the Most High in the name of His only begotten Son. And I pray that the information in this video today is able to reach each and every one of you out there, and you are able to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear after watching it. You know, for some strange reason, we see the year 2025 being brought up over and over and over again. Now, this year might not have any significance to you at all. You might have maybe subconsciously heard this year being brought up on TV, you know, maybe the radio 10 years ago, you know, maybe without you even knowing. But what I want to show you today is that this year in particular has been programmed and shown throughout history over and over and over, and that there's no coincidence whatsoever that we're now heading into this year and a lot of the events that they have planned have already been shown to us. We just don't know it, but the information that I'm going to show today is going to be able to help you see what and why, you know, 2025 is such a unique year on the people who control this world on their calendar. So before I continue on today with this presentation, what I want to do quickly is I want to dive into predictive programming. Now, just quickly, predictive programming is governed. Okay, so the people who bring forth, you know, this predictive programming, they're governed by a set of spiritual rules. All right, so they have to follow these spiritual rules, and they have to follow these spiritual rules in order to acquiesce what they're planning to achieve. Now, in the spiritual realm, these certain rules have to, you know, be followed in order for the plan to be properly brought to fruition. Now, in the spiritual realm, if these laws are, you know, taken place, what has to happen is that they have to show you exactly what they're planning to do in order for their plan to work. That means, what happens is they show you what they're going to do, and if they show you what they're going to do, and basically what happens is you choose to do nothing about it, in their eyes, they've already warned you on what they're planning to do, and if you don't take heed to their warning, then you deserve what's coming. Alright, so from their perspective, they've shown you what they're choosing to do, and they simply, all they have to do is show you. And if you choose to ignore it, then it's on you. Now, the second part of this is that when they choose to bring these plans to fruition, and basically what happens is they tell you in advance, what happens is this gives this plan greater heightened senses in the spirit realm. So it gives the plan greater power when it's brought forth. Okay, so that's basically the rules that they're governed by, these people in the occult, in these secret societies. They're governed by these set of rules. And, you know, they use things such as Hollywood, music, you know, things of this nature to bring forth this plan. This is also called karmic retribution, you know, revelation of the method, and lesser magic. Okay, so it's lesser magic is what they're practicing even in some of these major record labels. They're bringing forth this lesser magic and, you know, basically bestowing it upon the population without them even knowing. So let's jump in. I pray that you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear after we dive into this presentation today. How many of you out there have heard of the Deagel.com population forecast? Now, going back to 2014, this website was owned by a gentleman named Edwin A. Deagel Jr. Now, Edwin Deagel Jr., he was the Deputy Secretary of Defense at the Pentagon. Not only that, but he also worked at the infamous Rockefeller Foundation. So he broadcasted these population forecasts dating all the way to the year of 2025 on his website in 2014. Now, the thing about these forecasts is they actually disappeared after the 2020 lockdowns took place. So you can actually go to the website right now and you wouldn't be able to find these forecasts, brothers and sisters out there. You won't be able to find this online. Now, the only way you'll be able to find this is due to the fact that, thank the Most High for this, there's people out there that took screenshots of the actual website at the time. So they took screenshots so you can actually see all of the numbers here that they have. So not only that, we've got this thing called the Wayback Machine now on the internet, where you can actually go back through the archives and you can see content that's actually been deleted. The first country we see here being the United Kingdom. What do we have here? 63.3 million people, all the way down to 14.5 million. And this is forecasted, before the end of 2025. So we're looking at an absolutely shocking rate of 77.1% of the total population of the United Kingdom completely wiped out. All right, jumping down to Ireland here, 4.7 million. What do we have? We have 1.3 million. All right, let's jump down to America here. Now, the American total population in 2017, which is 316.4 million. Okay, so the forecast for before the end of 2025, and praise the Most High that people actually took heed to this and screenshotted these incredibly alarming forecasts that we see here. 99.5 by the end of 2025. Germany, 65.1% decline in the population. Now, as we go down to Australia here, right, keep in mind, we're still in I'm in 2024 right now as I'm recording this. But, as we see here, 23.2 million people in Australia. So we obviously know what's happened between, 2017 and 2024. We know that a lot of people's lives have been lost as a result of the consequences, in regards to the decisions that have been made. Okay, the absolute insanity that was forced upon the population from the government, from the orchestrators in these secret society who are operating on these television screens, who are, telling the people what to do out there. And if you're not awake to what's going on, if you're not privy to what the agenda is that they're actually trying to bestow upon the population, if you're actually not aware of their agenda, and before COVID was even gone, I was telling my family members that they're going to start introducing forced vaccinations, and I'm sure thousands of people were already aware of this before COVID even happened. So this is something they've been trying to push for a long time, and as soon as they had the excuse, right, and COVID was the excuse, they could then start going haywire with their agenda and start implementing these forced vaccinations. And basically, the people who had no clue, the people who just went along with the system, you see a lot of these people, unfortunately, they had to pay the price, a lot of these people, for blindly following the government and blindly following what the government told them. All right, so we see a 34.6% reduction in the population by the end of 2025 here in Australia. Now, we know the numbers have jumped down drastically since, let's just call it the campaign took place. But was that a 34.6 decline in the population? I don't know about that. I don't know if 68.5 of the American population right now, ever since the campaign took place, I don't think so. I don't see 77.1% of the United Kingdom missing ever since, the blah, blah, blah. I just don't see that happening. So what did this gentleman, Edwin A. Deagel Jr., know that we don't know?
Peter, have you ever killed a man?
Reddit says I've killed 39, but that seems low. Why do you ask?
Just making conversation.
Look, I know it's a lot to ask, but Quahog needs you. You're the perfect person to lead us through the last 5 years of the United States' existence. So what do you say? Will you be our mayor? The last 5 years of the United States existence.
I am a published author. I've written for 3 different publications. I have a number of articles on black programs and secret projects for Jane's Defense Weekly, for Interavia, for Aviation Week Space Technology. I have 3 books right here that I have authored just on the F-117 alone. That is where I spend all my spare time, is digging. I've had my neighbors questioned, I've had my mail opened, I've had my phones tapped. I was called up for Desert Shield. I'm in the Air National Guard. They held up my clearance at the Pentagon. They didn't deny my clearance, they held it up because I asked too many questions of my government. And my response was, that is my job. As an American taxpayer, it's my job to question my government whenever I feel it fit, and I do. And I make a lot of enemies, and I'm referred to as that SOB from Minnesota. I have quite a reputation in the Pentagon for being able to dig up information when no one else can.
Are there any unconventional technologies, propulsion technologies involved?
Yes, I have had the opportunity over the years to interview, again, people who have worked at the test site at Groom Lake. One gentleman spent 12 of his 30 years in black programs at Groom Lake. When I asked him, I said, first of all, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he looked at me with a straight face in one-on-one. He said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, can you expand upon that? And he said, no, I can't. About a year later, we were talking about, again, activities at Groom Lake. And I asked him, I said, you know, can you really tell me what's happening out there? And he said, well, there's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025. 2025. 2025. But we have things in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious.
Now, back in 1988, there was a movie that was released entitled They Live. And before we had The Matrix, before anything like that, They Live was one of the first original movies to actually portray reality for how we see it now, laid out in movie format. So we have movies like They Live, 1984, Soylent Green is another one. And you know, it's funny because the main actor in this movie actually tweeted that this movie is more like a documentary than it is a movie.
Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. By the year 2025.
One of the things that we want to talk about is what we were discussing a little bit ago, and that is the significance of this NASA war document that was found on the NASA website, and the need to urgently get this out in front of as many people as possible because of the content of this document.
So was this document available to everyone, or this was on their actual website and someone found it?
That is correct. It was on the NASA website, and it was a document that actually is a PowerPoint presentation by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Center. And it was presented in 2001, July of 2001, just a few months before 9/11. And what brought my attention to it and immediately rang some uncomfortable realizations was when we first came across it. It says on the website, future strategic issues, future warfare circa 2025. And as I decided to just flip through it quickly to see what it was about, I was a little stunned on page 4. It said, the presentation is based in all cases upon existing data, trends, analysis technologies, no pixie dust. And the entire premise of the document, or the PowerPoint, is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. So I immediately saw a conflict between future and now. And I thought, what are they covering up? Because that was a definite cover-up. And then I started to continue looking through the document with shock. And that's why we're talking right now, because I think most people would be shocked to find on page 93.
So who wrote this NASA document, and was this intentional? Did they want the public to see this, do you think, or?
Well, again, the Illuminati, the most wealthy, rich men on the face of the planet, always telegraph everything that they're going to do. So the fact that it was on the NASA website, it was certainly available to the public, but did they see it? Obviously not. Because had they looked at this document, you would know about it right now, and we don't. And that's the purpose of this discussion, is for people to know about this document. Again, the conflict between the future and the fact that they said it was a current reality in 2001 of July when this was actually presented. And what it said, which was quite shocking, on page 93, it said, "Capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time." And that is an unbelievable statement. Then it's followed up by saying, "Terror attacks within the continental United States using binary biologicals take down critical infrastructure." They are going to use an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse. They're going to use radiation frequencies against our brains, etc., and conduct serious psy-war and collateral damage and exploitation. On this same page 93, they say exploit CNN syndrome. Now, CNN, of course, is the network, the news media network, propaganda machine, and was set up by the CIA. You can watch the movie called Psy-War on stopthecrime.net for all the background information on CNN. Very, very interesting information. Then you go on and you read that on page 66, they say increasingly critical are human limitations and human downsides. Humans are too large, humans are too heavy, too tender, humans are too slow, both physically and mentally, and we require huge logistical trains, meaning we cost way too much money to maintain, and humans have rapidly decreasing to negative value. Can you even believe this? I mean, you're hearing this, and it's got to be rather shocking coming off of a NASA website, particularly when some of the agencies that are involved are the U.S. Air Force, DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, Southern Command, Atlantic Command, Australian Department of Defense, and other agencies.
So on October the 18th, 2019, for those of you who don't know, they hosted a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise called Event 201. Now, when I say they, I mean the Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security, the World Economic Forum, and of course the usual suspects, Bill and Melinda Gates. Right, so this was a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise, like I said, just simulating a number of scenarios in response to a hypothetical pandemic. Not like they knew that COVID was going to show up 3 months after that or anything. Of course not. Of course not. Now, 3 years later, let's fast forward, right? They're hosting another pandemic scenario, and when I say they, this time I'm including the World Health Organization, right? Well, this scenario is called catastrophic contagion. Another pandemic tabletop exercise, and this time I want you to check out the date that they're using for this model.
Officials in 2 Latin American countries alerted the WHO of several outbreaks of a new infectious disease that's mysteriously appearing across the region: Severe Epidemic Enterovirus Respiratory Syndrome 2025. Over the past 6 weeks alone, there have been 500 confirmed or suspected cases reported. The virus could cause a severe pandemic if early containment and mitigation efforts are not successful.
The pandemic in this type of situation and trend would be a risk for the global health security.
Pandemics are inherently political, financial, and so much broader.
As of today, there have been an estimated 1 billion cases worldwide, with more than 20 million deaths, including nearly 15 million children.
Alright, so let's take it back even further than 2019. We're going to jump back to the year 2017. Alright, so I'm going to present to you today a document called the SPARS Pandemic. And guess what year this SPARS Pandemic document was cited for? That's right, 2025 all the way through to the year 2028. Now, once again, we have the usual suspects here, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security. And let me tell you something, these guys, they just love humanity so much, right? They love us so much that they can just predict any type of pandemic at the point of a finger, right? And, not to jump off topic here, this is probably for another day, but, for anybody who's actually studied virology, they will know that there's ways that they can implement people to get sick using frequencies and using the food. Basically our bodies all interconnect, and when someone sees one person that's sick, we can also pass that sickness onto that other person. But virology, the way they explain virology is a complete fraud. There's books out there such as the contagion myth, and many other books that actually talk about the fraudulent way that virology is actually taught. So just because you see a virus, show up at the scene of an accident, that doesn't mean that the virus is the cause of the accident.
In 2004, my father warned me of something that to him was so terrifying that enabled for him to give me the information. He literally took me into the ocean at Melkbosstrand, South Africa, and said that he wants to make sure that nobody could hear the conversation. And the information that he gave me was a warning. It was a warning to myself, and I believe I want to pass on that warning to the rest of the world. So whatever country you are in, wherever you live, I want you to see this as information, not as truth, not as fact, but information. And what he told me back then in 2004 on a warm evening by the beach at Melkbosstrand, he actually had us take off our shoes. We stood in the wash of the waves because he said there would be no way that anyone could pick up what he was saying to me. He held me by the shoulders and spoke into my ear, and what he told me is something that I didn't repeat for a very long time. A lot of what he said to me I haven't repeated since, but what I want to warn you about now is the fact that he said that there's an organization of people that he met with in Geneva, Switzerland, or Geneva as he called it, and he met with them in 1984, a group of people that he believed runs the world, that is above governments, etc. Whether true or not is irrelevant. What he told me that was discussed at this meeting, and I have evidence for the fact that he was there, due to mail that he received there in in fact in December of 1983, and he told me this meeting was in January of 1984. He said that they discussed there that a virus would be released on the world, something similar to the cold virus, that would kill the sickly people. And that what will happen during this introduction of this virus in the world, and no dates were discussed, is that the entire world will be put under house arrest. He said this to me in Afrikaans, which is one of the languages in South Africa, and he called it huisarrest, house arrest. The entire world will be put under house arrest. And to him it was such a huge thing that he couldn't comprehend that it would be possible. But he was sure that these people that he had met there would do everything to make this happen in future. And that they had already designed the virus that would be able to do this work. And what he told me subsequently is the great and the gravest of warnings. He said that what would be done during these lockdowns worldwide, or these house arrests for people worldwide, is that people's resolve would be tested, governments would be tested, and that this organization would then be able to make decisions around how to implement something further. So after all these lockdowns happen, he said that there would be a period of 2 years, a lull, where after the lockdowns were completed, the people would get back to normal, forget about everything, and feel like they're on top of the world again, financially recover, etc. And once that has happened, the world would be ready, he said, for the release of a pathogen that will kill most of the world's population. And this is the warning I want to give you. Don't see this as truth. Don't see this as fact. See this purely as information and a warning. Because when COVID happened, I realized that what he had told me, what I thought he said to me at the time that was absolutely crazy in my mind, actually took place. Not exactly as he said. It was meticulously as he said, especially in South Africa, where the rollout of what happened exactly as he said it would. That it would start in Cape Town, that it would spread via taxis to the Eastern Cape, that it would spread via the mine workers to Gauteng, and from there to KwaZulu-Natal. This is exactly how it took place. So I don't want to labor into further details with regards to that. But what I do want to say is that I've always kept a lookout for anything cropping up, swine flu, bird flu, all of these things, wondering, is this what he spoke of? Because I didn't trust him necessarily, but each time that something popped up in the news, I took note. And when COVID, what was called COVID came around, and they announced lockdowns, or they were talking about lockdowns, I realized, goodness, this could be it. But the moment I realized that this is exactly what he spoke of, is when things started rolling out in South Africa exactly as he said they would. Exactly. Meticulously. I was shocked. And I remember it was a specific video that I saw on WhatsApp that showed these taxis going to the Eastern Cape and government allowing them through even under level 5 lockdown restrictions, where they were not allowed to travel. They were allowed through to the Eastern Cape. Hundreds of taxis. And people were highlighting this in the Eastern Cape, showing that it was happening and raising concerns and double standards. So my warning to you is that this is a warning that was given to me in 2004, a long time ago.
Now, in the year of 1957, somebody who had direct ties to the United Nations and a known occultist, well, her name was Alice Bailey. Now, Alice Bailey also wrote the 10-point plan for a new world order. Not only that, but she also was married to a 32nd degree Freemason, and she was a known Luciferian. And when I say known Luciferian, that means that she has open writings talking about bringing in the one world age, bringing in and ushering a 10-point plan to disseminate faith out of the household. So, I mean, she was a known Luciferian and a very well-known and revered occultist of her time. Now, Alice Bailey, she read a book in 1957 called The Externalization of the Hierarchy. Now, I'm going to read a little quote from this book, and we have here section 4, part 2 of said book. Thus, a great and new movement is proceeding, and tremendously increased interplay and interaction is taking place. This will go on until AD 2025. During these years intervening between now and then, very great changes will be seen taking place, and at the great General Assembly of the Hierarchy, held as usual every century in 2025, the date in all probability will be set for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. The present cycle from now until that date is called technically the stage of the forerunner. It is preparatory in nature, testing in its methods, and intended to be revelatory in its techniques and results. You can see therefore that Kohans, masters, initiates, world disciples, aspirants affiliated with the hierarchy are all at this time passing through a cycle of great activity. You know, for someone to write such a prolific book all the way back in the year 1957, you know, I'm gonna just give you my opinion here, and look, this is only my humble opinion. Please do correct me if you feel like I'm wrong, or even if you've got your own perspective. But what I believe that she's trying to tell us when she speaks of the externalization of the hierarchy is, I believe that she means that in the year 1957 when she wrote this, she was very, very confident that in the year of 2025, we were going to see such externalization of, this hierarchy that she speaks of. Now, this hierarchy that she speaks of, in my humble opinion, are the angels that fell here before the flood. These are the angels that they're worshipping out there in government today. They're the same angels that made the deals with the government, behind the scenes a long time ago. Okay, these are the same angels that fell here. We can even look back to the book of Enoch, and we can see that these angels, fell on Mount Hermon, and they made a pact to corrupt and destroy mankind. Right? These are the same angels that slept with the women and created giants, as it talks about in Genesis chapter 6. And of course, there's a false doctrine, and hey, if you want to believe that, that's absolutely fine. But there's a doctrine out there that they teach in Christianity, and only because this comes from the head of the Roman Catholic Church, they teach this doctrine out there in Christianity that the sons of man, the Most High was referring to the sons of Seth. Okay, so the sons of Seth. And they're trying to bestow this, narrative onto the population, because the same gods that they're referring to in the Catholic Church, well, the Catholic Church are actually worshipping these gods. These are the gods who fell here in the beginning of the flood. And, as Christ says, in the days of Noah, so shall it be as the coming of the Son of Man, which means that genetic modification, all of these things which are taking place today, were some of the things that were happening in the days of Noah. And, basically, what Bailey done is she basically, prophesied in her own occultic writings that this date here, you know, whether it was from channeling, you know, and having discussions with these entities. But a lot of people in the occult, a lot of people in these secret societies, when we're talking about the higher echelons, they're very well, you know, versed in these writings. They know exactly what year that all of these things are going to take place. And basically, if we go back to the predictive programming, we know that they're governed by spiritual law. And in that spiritual law, they must tell us what they're going to do, because if they tell us what they're going to do, it gives their plan greater power, and it also, you know, cleanses them of their evil workings, right? If they tell us what they're going to do beforehand and we choose to ignore it, we simply deserve what's coming because we didn't take heed to their warning. Okay, so this is how the predictive programming works. And, you know, how could a year be shown to us over and over and over again? And when we look at the forecast of the world events leading up to 2025, we see that things aren't getting any better, and we can clearly see a number of events which look very, very likely to take place. And it all comes back to this year 2025. Now, coincidentally enough, as you know, Bailey spoke about, you know, Pike also wrote, Albert Pike I'm referring to, in his, you know, 3 World War letters. He read these letters to Mazzini, and mind you, you know, it's crazy because these letters were actually on show to the public, my friends. You know, these letters, this letter, you know, outlining the 3 World Wars was actually on show in the public museum. You know, so it's crazy because talk about predictive programming, right? Pike said in his letters that once this 3rd World War takes place, the public is going to be so disillusioned with Christianity, and what he's referring to is the Christianity that's on show at the moment out there in the world, that they basically are completely disillusioned by Donald Trump. They're under the false, you know, Zionist indoctrinated Christianity. They're not following the true, you know, scripture and interpreting the Bible in a way that you know was interpreted by the scribes and the prophets. You know, they've been, and you know, if you believe in this rapture doctrine, then hey, so be it. You know, I'm not here to debate you or anything like that. That's your choice. But all I'm saying is that is a proven false doctrine that was brought forth by the Jesuit order. But you know, if you choose to believe in that, that's absolutely fine. You know, with this 3rd World War taking place, Pike writes about that, you know, the Muslim nations, you know, Islam, they're going to be fighting at one with the Zionist nations. And, you know, once this 3rd World War comes about, what's then going to happen is the pure doctrine of Lucifer is going to be made manifest to the public. That's right, the doctrine of Lucifer is going to be made manifest to the public, and you know, the public are going to have no choice but to accept this, because they're going to fall for this false light that, you know, is getting bestowed upon the world right now through Donald Trump. They're going to fall for all of this stuff, and they're going to fall, and they're not even going to be aware and know that this false light is actually coming from Lucifer. Therefore, you know, Pike's doctrine there is going to be made shine. Is going to be shined throughout the whole universe, and that doctrine is going to be the pure doctrine of Lucifer. And basically, you know, if you're not covered by the blood, if you're not, you know, aware of this, and you fall for this, you know, if you make it past this reset, which I pray that each and every one of you does, you know, you are going to fall right into Albert Pike's trap.
How do you think the world will end? If you knew the end of the world was here, would you be at home with your family? In the only safe place you know, or thought you knew? What if the real enemy was within the human heart? Your own heart.
Is this about the emergency broadcast?
Yeah, martial law, Unc. We on lockdown, the whole country.
You've been warned. The day of truth is here.
You demon! You demon! You know who doing this? What are you talking about? You one of them? It's never too late to change. If this is all the time I have with my son, I'm gonna spend it with him right the now.
Clarence!
Put the gun down!
And then every man's sword shall be against his brother.
What should we do?
I remember they'd always say one thing. It's coming.
We have on our hands weather modification as, quote, a force multiplier. The Air Force swears that it will, quote, own the weather by 2025. Own it. Control it at will. And we have this lovely installation on the northern oil slopes of Alaska called HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which uses the gas from that very rich oil deposit, the natural gas, to power an enormous generator which beams electromagnetic pulse into the ionosphere, and which the scientists claim can act as an ABM shield, can act as a weather modifier, can act as a counterinsurgency measure anywhere on Earth. I hope that some of you have read as to what electromagnetic beams can do to any of us in our physical, emotional, and spiritual makeup.
So this is just a quick breakdown of the Economist magazine for 2025, entitled The World Ahead 2025. And what do we see here? We see Donald Trump at the epicenter of this magazine, you know, and so many people in America have fallen for this man to act. You know, many of his followers are blindly following him, and he's leading them basically into this one world currency. He's leading them with Elon Musk into the forefront of this new world order. And we see Donald Trump here, you know, at the epicenter of the magazine, you know, whether this is timely in regards to his, you know, likelihood of him being assassinated, you know, as they've shown us in the predictive programming, as they keep telling us, you know, this remains to be seen. But we have Donald Trump here at the center, you know, more than likely going to be leading America into this, you know, coming Third World War, and deceiving a lot of Christians, a lot of people who read the Bible, deceiving them like, you know, Christ warns about, and leading them off of the cliff. Okay, so I can't believe a lot of people have fallen for this man. He's a very, very well-spoken, you know, calm man. He's very good at what he does. You don't get on that position of power at the world stage without being affiliated and totally under control, right? Look what happened to JFK. Now we have the eye here of Lucifer, as we see here on the back of the dollar bill. We have another, you know, complete shot of poison here, right next to the ballistic missile, you know, symbolizing World War III perhaps, and this obviously symbolizing perhaps another pandemic. We'll see. We have Zelensky down here. We have the communist fist down here. And you know, right at the top here, so who remembers that 2013 magazine cover from The Economist? And mind you, The Economist being partnered by the Rothschilds, we see Rothschild, Lord Jacob Rothschild, standing next to Marina Abramovich in front of the painting of Lucifer summoning his demons. Alright, so this is the Rothschilds magazine, and here we have Saturn, which, you know, if we study the occult, is symbolic for the Roman god Saturn. And, you know, I strongly believe that Saturn is actually one in the same with Satan. All right, Satan just masquerading himself as an angel of light, pretending to be this Roman god Saturn, as we, you know, hear in the book of Corinthians. Satan's always appearing to be somebody that he isn't. Alright, so I believe that this is strongly symbolizing the Roman god Saturn here, which is one in the same with Satan. You know, we see a potential biological attack here, overlooking a city. I could be wrong about that. You know, that's just a more humble opinion. And interesting because we see along with the nuclear sign here, the two eyes, a nose, and the mouth here too. So we can actually see some type of disconfigured face in what could potentially be, you know, one of those cartoon virus outlines that they give us. So a quick wrap up of the World Ahead 2025.
Global Trends 2025, A Transformed World, was published in November of 2008 by the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence Council. As The Guardian pointed out on November 20th of 2008, the National Intelligence Council, quote, has warned that the world is entering an increasingly unstable and unpredictable period, in which the advance of Western-style democracy is no longer assured. After giving thanks to the Atlantic Council for its fourth installment of their Trends forecast, they describe previous installments as, quote, interesting and influential. Their stated goal is, quote, to identify key drivers and developments likely to shape world events a decade or more in the future. For 2025, Global Trends gives another bleak picture of Western nations. Quote, the Western model of economic liberalism, democracy, and secularism may lose its luster. Today, wealth is moving not just from west to east, but is concentrating more under state control. They go on to predict that, quote, the international system, as constructed following the Second World War, will be almost unrecognizable by 2025. Unrecognizable by 2025.
We say sorry.
What went wrong? Celebrated for your performances.
Go out.
Research, of course, being from a university, but I also might add that in the course of working together, I'm reminded by the name of our program, Water in 2025, that the American Society of Civil Engineers says that we will have a $1 trillion shortfall in our infrastructure and infrastructure repairs by that same year, 2025. So that in addition to greater research, which helps us to understand how to do it more wisely and how to do it smarter, we do need the agreement of Congress and the people of the United States that our infrastructure has fallen sorely behind and is in very bad need of repair.
The UN estimates that in half of Asia we could be facing water stress or outright shortages by the year 2025, and as many as 3 out of 4 people around the globe will be affected by water security over the next decades. Less access to safe, stable, potable water supplies could potentially have a lot of impact on security throughout the region and maybe even trigger some serious socio-political unrest political unrest.
Taking it all the way back to the year now of 1998. So there was an article here that was published by the Bioscience Journal, which was, a journal from the Oxford University. And in volume 48 of this journal, an article was published which was called Water for Food Production. Will there be enough in 2025? Now, you don't have to be someone who, can foresee the future. Someone who's seen this programming over and over again, even dating back from, the 1980s now. Hearing this year spoken about by Alice Bailey, over 40 years from this date. They're planning to do something by the end of this year. Is too coincidental to be having this year shown over and over and over. Right, so this year is shown once again in this 1998 article, and what they're doing is they're basically just fabricating, they're continuing on the fabrication of this lie that water's at a scarcity. There's too many people on the earth, and because there's too many people on the earth, all of these people are using the water, right? And because all of the people are using the water, what's going to happen is there's going to start being a scarcity of water, right? And because there's a scarcity of water, we're not going to be able to drink that water anymore. We're not going to be able to use that water. And what we're going to have to start doing is we're going to have to start rationing. We're going to have to start begging for them, to give us permission so we can have this water. We're going to have to start, they want us to bend over and basically beg them for water. Okay, and the funny thing is, even in the Bible, it talks about the waters from below being separated from the waters above. What it's talking about there is that there's continuous water flow under the ground. All right, so even a toddler will know that if you drill long enough under the ground, they were told us that they were going to end up in China. Really, if we drill deep enough under the ground, we're going to end up finding water. And that, my friends, that's what they are hiding from us. They've been trying to hide this from us all of these years. The fact that if you drill, deep enough under the ground, you can find a source of water, right? But you see, they want us to forget, all those times in the 1940s where all those people had these wells. They want us to forget all of these years, and they're doing a pretty good job at, adding all of the aluminium into the food supply, spraying us with the chemtrails, making everybody docile, keeping everybody in that fluoridated state of mind where they're actually forgetting, and they're slowly accumulating Alzheimer's disease, right? But they're trying to make us forget that in the old days that they had wells, right? They had wells where they would draw their water from. They want us to forget that there's water under the ground. And what everybody has to understand is this is one of the biggest fabricated hoaxes of all time. There is constant water flowing under the ground, and any of us is accessible to that water. So we need water to survive. I mean, how much is a man or a woman created in the image of God important than one of these animals that needs to survive and needs water to live? How much important is a man created in the image of God in comparison to an animal? And I'm paraphrasing scripture there, but the lie continues. The scarcity of water is one of the biggest fabricated hoaxes that they've ever created. And, once they pull the plug and flip out the rug from under everybody's feet, we're going to start seeing food shortages. We're going to start seeing water shortages. They're quite content with us having no water. So therefore, if we have no water, we can't survive. And they're quite frankly very, very intent with that fact. I'm going to leave the ball in your court. What do you think about this year? You think it's all going to be, some hype, maybe to throw us off, distract us? Or do you think, all of this information, impossible, way too much of a coincidence? Either way, all I can do is plant the seed. And for anybody out there who's watching this, because I know some people struggle out there, breaking strongholds and being able to elevate, spiritually, and being able to see things on a level where they're able to look past these things and actually see them for what they are without having the blinders on them, that spiritual blindness. There's people out there, I know that they're on the brink, but they need our prayers more than ever out there. It's really now or it's never. You know, just from my perspective. It's now or it's never. And for the people who still, you know, they have a hard time accepting this information. They're suffering from that cognitive dissonance, you know, from all of the years of the programming, you know, under the television, from the mainstream media. And they still laugh at this. You know, if they don't get it now, guess what? They're never going to get it. Right? They're never going to get it. So this is for the people out there, you know, who can't break those demonic strongholds, who can't elevate past that level that they're on because they're under that spiritual blindness. So I pray that each and every one of you has those strongholds broken by the blood of the pure, sinless shed blood of the Lamb. Because He is the only way that we're going to, you know, elevate past this situation. And He's the only way, because no one else is coming to save us. This is reality that we're in right now. Right here, right now. And He is the only one that can give us the wisdom and the discernment, you know, to navigate through these times ahead. So, you know, I pray that this video helps. And, you know, if I ask, you know, just for one thing, you know, like, comment, share, and share this to anybody, you know, who you think will, you know, be able to be edified off of this.
For my next trick, I need a demonstrator. And I hope you got your gloves and your ventilator. No matter which administration, they eliminate you. Sacrifice you to their gods, treachery is in their nature. Cash rules everything around me. Root of all evil, I'm surrounded. Devils in their uniform, patrolling on it down me. Protected by the Most High, make a move around me, astounding. As the seals break, listen for the trumpets. The puppeteers dance for the public. This dog and pony show phony. No cronies go straight to hell with their master for practicing the blasphemous. The body snatchers and the gathering of organs. Harvested in the Lazarus pit. Genocide, homicide of the masses sin. Dumb you down with these public food classes. Then you seek the truth. Seek the truth.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
It's getting ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like a gas leak. The end is near, the sky is falling. The voice is clear, God is calling ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like a gas leak. The end is near, the sky is falling. The voice is clear, God is calling. The sickness embedded in your DNA, but you more focused on the TNA, so you can't see the way they stipulate, manufacture and manipulate. These disaster pontificate with they pastors, they demonstrate heresy. Skip the ladder, now renovate clemency. What's the matter? Differentiate, innovate, meditate, elevate, vibrate a higher state. Deuteronomy 28:7. Devils come from one direction, but they flee in me in 7. I'm protected by the armor like Ephesians 6:11. Be it legion or allegiance, they defeated in my presence. Now get to stepping, the son of Yah Elohim. No weapon, Isaiah 54:17. I summon the force that you never seen. Now bow your heads and pray to the King. Pray to the King.
There was a time, Cal, when man was at one with the gods before the fall. Now we're at one again. And their benediction is power. It's a power you can't imagine. Power to create a world of our choosing. Power to destroy those who oppose us.
It's getting ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like a gas leak. The end is near, the sky is falling. The voice is clear, God is calling ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like a gas leak. The end is near, the sky is falling. The voice is clear, God is calling ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like a ghastly. Troubling times corrupt the mind so nasty. Fear breeds panic and it spreads like